First contact's price. The quantum comm crackled to life aboard the EDF Phoenix, its sudden activity shattering the routine quiet of deep space patrol. Commander Sarah Chen's fingers froze above her console, coffee cup halfway to her lips. In 15 years of service with the Earth Defense Force, she'd never heard a signal quite like this, a haunting pulse that seemed to ripple through subspace itself. "Report," she ordered, setting down her cup with deliberate care. Lieutenant Maya Patel's hands danced across the sensor array. "Signal origin is approximately 3 light-years out, Commander. It's strange. The encoding matches Galactic Council protocols, but there's something else layered underneath." Chen rose from her command chair, drawn toward the main viewport where distant stars painted cold light across the bridge. The Phoenix had been tasked with monitoring this sector ever since Earth joined the Galactic Council 2 years ago. It was supposed to be a quiet assignment, humanity's first steps into a larger community. "Play it," Chen commanded. The bridge speakers hummed to life, filling the air with a cascade of sounds that made Chen's skin crawl. Beneath the standard distress beacon's pulse lay something else, a frantic stream of data compressed into audio frequencies. "To any receiving vessels, this is Research Ship Luminar. We found, God help us, we found them. The simulation was wrong. They're not extinct. They're coming." The Deathworlder's air. Static consumed the rest of the message. "How old is this signal?" Chen asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Based on quantum decay, less than 6 hours," Patel replied. Chen nodded slowly, her mind already racing through protocols and possibilities. The Luminar was one of the Council's most advanced research vessels, crewed by some of the finest xenorchaeologists in known space. If something had happened to them, "Plot an intercept course," she ordered. "But keep us at the edge of sensor range. I want to know what we're dealing with before we commit." The Phoenix's quantum drive hummed to life, pushing the ship through the fabric of space-time. Chen used the transit time to review everything they knew about the Luminar's mission. They'd been investigating ancient ruins, searching for evidence of civilizations that predated the Council. Standard archaeological work, nothing that should have put them in danger. 3 hours later, they found the Luminar, or what was left of it. "Mother of Mercy," breathed Commander Aaron Rodriguez, Chen's XO, as the visual feed appeared on the main screen. The research vessel hung in space like a broken toy, its sleek hull torn open in precise, surgical strikes. No random battle damage here. Whoever had done this knew exactly where to hit and how to do maximum damage with minimum effort. "Life signs?" Chen asked, though she already suspected the answer. "None detected," Patel reported, her voice tight. "But Commander, there's still power flowing to the ship's ag core." "They left it intact. Deliberately." Chen's eyes narrowed. A warning prickle ran down her spine. The kind of instinct that had kept her alive through countless patrols in Earth's pre-Council days. They wanted someone to find this, to see what they'd done. "Commander," Rodriguez interjected, "regulations state we should call this in. Wait for backup." Chen studied the wreckage, noting the precision of the attacks, the complete absence of wasted energy or effort. Everything about this screamed predator, not just violence, but calculated, intelligent violence. "If we wait, whatever's in that AI core might be gone by the time Elva arrives." She straightened her uniform. "Prep a boarding team. Full combat loads, and I want our best tech specialists. We go in quiet, we get the data, we get out." The boarding shuttle cut through space like a shadow, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Chen led the team herself, her pulse steady despite the weight of her combat armor. As they approached the Luminar's main airlock, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ship's interior was a tomb. Emergency lights cast red shadows across torn bulkheads and shattered equipment. The team moved in formation, their boots magnetic locked to the deck in case of gravitational failures. "I-Core is 2 decks up," reported Specialist Zhang, their tech expert. Still reading power signatures. They found the first body outside the ship's main lab. A Centaurian researcher, their crystalline form shattered with surgical precision. Chen had worked with Centaurians before. They were peaceful scholars, dedicated to understanding the universe's mysteries. The AI core itself was untouched, a stark contrast to the destruction around it. Its quantum processors hummed with activity as Zhang connected to its systems. AI core is 2 decks up, reported Specialist Zhang, their tech expert, still reading power signatures. They found the first body outside the ship's main lab. A Centaurian researcher, their crystalline form shattered with surgical precision. Chen had worked with Centaurians before. They were peaceful scholars, dedicated to understanding the universe's mysteries. The AI core itself was untouched, a stark contrast to the destruction around it. Its quantum processors hummed with activity as Zhang connected to its systems. I've never seen encryption like this, Zhang muttered. It's not just protected. It's alive, adaptive. Someone wanted this data preserved, but they wanted to make damn sure only the right people could access it. Can you crack it? Chen asked. Zhang's fingers flew across his portable interface. Maybe, but wait. Commander, it's scanning us. The AI, it's reading our genetic signatures. The core's display suddenly flared to life, projecting a hologram that filled the chamber. Stars and planets wheeled past at dizzying speed, focusing on a single world that made Chen's blood run cold. It was Earth, but not their Earth. The recording began to play, its message clear and terrible. To whoever finds this, we discovered their origin point, a parallel Earth, one where humanity evolved under conditions we thought impossible to survive. They call themselves Deathworlders, and they're coming. Not for conquest, not for resources. They're coming because they learned about us, about an Earth where humanity chose a different path. And our very existence offends them. The hologram shifted, showing massive fleets of ships unlike anything Chen had ever seen. Ships that seemed to absorb light itself, designed by humans who had evolved under the cruelest conditions imaginable. We thought we had time to warn everyone, the recording continued. We were wrong. They're already here. This data contains everything we learned about them, their tactics, their technology, their psychology. Use it, prepare, and pray it's enough. The hologram winked out, leaving them in silence broken only by the hum of the AI core. Chen stared at the space where the projection had been, her mind racing with implications. Download everything, she ordered. Every byte of data. Then set charges. Nothing of this ship can fall into the wrong hands. As her team worked, Chen moved to the shattered viewport, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's darkest reflection was coming. Not alien invaders, but humans twisted by evolution into something terrible and efficient. The question wasn't whether Earth would stand and fight. The question was whether they could do it without becoming what they fought against. Message Boy is ready, Rodriguez reported. Set to quantum broadcast to all Earth Defense Force frequencies. Chen nodded, her voice firm as she recorded humanity's first warning of what was to come. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the EDF Phoenix. First contact protocols have failed. I say again, first contact protocols have failed. The threat is human in origin. All fleet assets are to mobilize immediately. The Deathworlders are coming. She paused, looking one last time at the devastation around them. And God help us all. The hidden truth. The EDF Phoenix cut through hyperspace like a blade through dark water, its quantum drive pushing the limits of safe operation. In the ship's data center, Commander Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her eyes burned as she stared at the holographic displays, trying to make sense of the encrypted data they'd retrieved from the Luminar's AI core. The encryption's adaptive, Specialist Zhang explained, his voice hoarse from too much coffee and too little rest. Every time we crack one layer, it reconfigures itself. It's like it's testing us, making sure we're worthy of what's inside. Chen rubbed her temples, fighting back a headache. Keep at it. Whatever's in there, the Luminar's crew died protecting it. We owe it to them to find out why. The door hissed open, admitting Commander Rodriguez with a fresh pot of coffee. Latest update from Earth Command, he reported, pouring cups for everyone. They're mobilizing the fleet, but there's resistance from some of the colonial governments. They think we're overreacting to a single incident. Show them the wreckage footage, Chen muttered. We did. They say it could be pirates or raiders. Without concrete proof of these Deathworlders, they're reluctant to commit resources. Before Chen could respond, Zhang's console erupted in a cascade of light. Commander, I think yes, we're in. The AI's accepting our access codes. The holographic displays shifted, filling the room with streams of data. Star charts, tactical analyses, and biological scans flowed past in a dizzying array. But what caught Chen's attention was a series of historical records, dating back over 300 years. It's not just about the Deathworlders, she breathed, stepping closer to one particular display. It's about us, about how close we came to becoming them. The data told a story that made Chen's blood run cold. 300 years ago, Earth had stood at a crossroads. Climate change, resource depletion, and growing tensions had pushed humanity to the brink. In their timeline, they'd chosen cooperation. The Global Recovery Initiative that had led to the first fusion reactors, atmospheric processors, and eventually, contact with the Galactic Council. But in another timeline, things had gone differently. Look at these atmospheric readings. Rodriguez pointed to one chart. Their Earth, the environment became exponentially worse. Instead of working together, they turned on each other, fought wars over the last habitable regions. And the survivors adapted, Zhang added, his voice quiet. Generation after generation, living in conditions that should have been impossible to survive. Their bodies changed. Their minds changed. Everything that made them human was burned away by the need to survive. Chen studied a genetic comparison between standard humans and their Deathworlder counterparts. The differences were subtle but profound. Denser muscle tissue, enhanced regeneration, accelerated neural pathways. 3 centuries of evolution compressed by the most brutal environmental pressures imaginable. But how did they get here? Rodriguez asked. Cross-dimensional travel should be impossible. Zhang pulled up another file. They didn't cross dimensions. They crossed time. The Luminar's researchers found evidence of massive temporal distortions in their home system. They didn't just evolve to survive their world. They evolved to break the laws of physics themselves. A new alert flashed across the displays. A decoded transmission intercept. Chen's heart skipped as she read it. This is from their fleet communications. Their leaders found out about our Earth 6 months ago, about how we survived without becoming like them. And that knowledge drove them insane. Rodriguez finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Our very existence proves that all their suffering, all their evolution, might have been unnecessary. So they're coming to erase the evidence, Chen said grimly, to destroy the path not taken. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These weren't mindless invaders or simple conquerors. They were humanity's shadow self, twisted by circumstance into something terrible. And they were coming to destroy everything that proved there had been another way. Another alert caught Chen's attention. A sensor reading from a deep space array. Multiple quantum wake signatures detected at the edge of the Kuiper belt, she read aloud. Massive energy outputs, unlike anything in our database. The invasion fleet? Rodriguez asked. No. Chen studied the readings more closely. Scout ships. They're testing our defenses, probing for weaknesses. The main fleet is still coming, but they're sending ahead their hunters. She straightened, her decision made. Signal Earth Command. Tell them I'm taking the Phoenix out to meet these scouts, and send them everything we've decoded. The genetic data, the historical records, all of it. They need to understand what we're really fighting. Commander, Rodriguez stepped closer, lowering his voice. These scouts, they're still human, technically. Our weapons, our tactics, they're all designed for fighting aliens. Are we prepared to fight ourselves? Chen's expression hardened as she remembered the precision cuts in the Luminar's hull, the calculated brutality of the attack. They stopped being human the moment they decided to destroy us for making a different choice. But you're right about one thing. Standard tactics won't work here. She pulled up the Phoenix's crew manifest, already forming plans. They've spent centuries evolving to be the perfect predators, but we've spent those same centuries learning to work together, to innovate, to find solutions that don't involve brute force. That's our advantage. And if it's not enough, Zhang asked quietly. Chen thought of the message they'd found in the Luminar's AI core, of the researchers who died trying to warn them. Then we make sure Earth has every scrap of data we can give them, every advantage we can provide. She turned to her officers, her voice steady. Humanity chose cooperation over conflict once before. That choice made us strong enough to reach the stars. Now we have to prove it made us strong enough to defend them. The Phoenix's quantum drive hummed louder, responding to new coordinates being fed into its navigation systems. Somewhere ahead, humanity's darkest reflection waited in the void, testing Earth's defenses, and Commander Sarah Chen intended to show them exactly what kind of strength could be found in choosing a different path. Preparing for war. The holographic display in Earth Defense Force headquarters cast an ethereal blue glow across faces from a dozen different worlds. Commander Sarah Chen stood before them, her uniform crisp despite the exhaustion evident in her eyes. The Phoenix's encounter with the Deathworlder scouts had left scars, both on the ship and its crew. The scout ships employ tactics we've never seen before, Chen explained, manipulating the hologram to show combat footage. They don't just fight. They evolve during battle. Every time we found a weakness, they adapted to eliminate it. The assembled military leaders watched as the recording showed a Deathworlder vessel taking a direct hit from the Phoenix's main guns. Instead of suffering damage, the ship's hull rippled, its molecular structure reorganizing in real time to absorb and redirect the energy. By all normal physics, this should be impossible, Admiral Zhang Wei of the Chinese Space Force commented, leaning forward to study the footage. Their technology isn't just advanced, it's breaking fundamental laws of nature. Because they themselves broke those laws to survive, Chen responded. 3 centuries of evolution in an environment that should have killed them changed more than their bodies. It changed their understanding of reality itself. The Arcturian representative, a being of living crystal and light, chimed in with a harmonious tone that the translators rendered into speech. Yet you survived the encounter, Commander. How? Chen's expression hardened as she remembered that battle. We stopped trying to overpower them. Their entire evolution has been about becoming the perfect predator. Stronger, faster, more lethal. But humanity's greatest achievements have never come from pure strength. She adjusted the hologram, showing how the Phoenix had used the local asteroid field, solar radiation, and even the scout ship's own aggressive tactics against them. We survived because we remembered what they forgot. The power of adaptation isn't just about becoming deadlier. It's about finding new solutions, working together, thinking beyond pure conflict. And now you believe the main fleet is coming, General Santos of the Brazilian Space Command stated. It wasn't a question. Within weeks, Chen confirmed, the scouts were testing us, learning our capabilities. What they learned will make the main force even more dangerous. The room erupted in overlapping discussions, arguments about strategy and resource allocation. Chen let them talk, her mind drifting to the crews they'd lost in the scout engagement. Good people who died proving that humanity could stand against its twisted reflection. Admiral Patel of the Indian Space Force raised his hand for silence. Commander Chen's report makes one thing clear. We cannot win this fight alone. Not even Earth's combined forces will be enough. We don't have to fight alone. Chen stepped forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs. The Galactic Council exists because different species learn to combine their strengths. Each member race has something unique to offer: technology, perspectives, ways of thinking that evolved under completely different circumstances. She gestured to the alien representatives present. The Arcturians understand crystal-based computing better than anyone in known space. The Rigelians are masters of gravitational manipulation. The Centaurians can process information in ways our brains can't match. Together, we're not just stronger, we're something entirely new. You propose an integrated defense force. The Rigelian delegate's tentacles rippled with interest. No species has ever attempted military integration on such a scale. Exactly. Chen smiled grimly. The Deathworlders expect to face humans trying to match their strength. Instead, they'll face something they've never encountered: a force that combines the best aspects of a dozen different evolutionary paths. The next hours were a blur of planning and organization. Chen worked with each species' representatives, identifying how their unique capabilities could be combined into something greater than the sum of its parts. The Arcturians began modifying Earth's quantum communication networks, making them resistant to the Deathworlders' temporal distortion effects. Rigelian engineers started upgrading Earth's defensive platforms with gravity manipulation technology that could turn the enemy's superior mass against them. But it was the Centaurian contribution that gave Chen the most hope. Their crystalline minds had analyzed the combat data from the scout engagement and discovered something crucial: patterns in the Deathworlders' adaptive capabilities. They're not truly evolving during battle, the Centaurian scientist explained, its faceted form refracting light as it gestured to complex mathematical models. They're cycling through pre-programmed responses, albeit at incredible speed. But true adaptation, true evolution, that requires something they sacrificed long ago. Creativity, Chen finished, understanding dawning. They're perfectly optimized predators, but that optimization came at a cost. They can't think beyond the parameters of survival and dominance. As the preparations continued, Chen received word that the Phoenix's repairs were ahead of schedule, thanks to the combined efforts of human and alien engineering teams. Walking through the ship's corridors, she saw human crew members working seamlessly alongside their alien counterparts, each learning from the other's strengths. In her quarters that night, Chen reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Deathworlder Fleet's quantum wake signatures were growing stronger. They were accelerating their approach, but for the first time since discovering the Luminar's wreckage, she felt something close to hope. "They think they're coming to erase a mistake," she murmured, watching the distant stars through her viewport. "Instead, they're about to learn why we chose a different path." The ship's AI chimed softly. "Commander, the first wave of integrated defense platforms is online. The Arcturian modifications are showing a 300% increase in effectiveness." Chen nodded, her resolve strengthening. Earth had chosen cooperation over conflict, innovation over pure strength. That choice had led them to the stars, to allies who saw the universe through different eyes. And together, they were about to prove that there was more than one way to be strong. "Send word to all commands," she ordered. "Operation Synthesis is now active. Let's show our ancestors what humanity can become when we choose to evolve together instead of alone." The battle for Earth. They came out of quantum space like a tide of darkness, thousands of ships that seemed to devour light itself. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the Phoenix's bridge, watching as the Deathworlder fleet emerged. Their ships moved with perfect coordination, a predator's grace written in metal and void. "Multiple quantum ruptures," Lieutenant Paddle reported, her voice steady despite the tension. "Energy readings are off the charts. Their technology. It's like they're bending reality itself. They had to break physics to survive their world." Chen responded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Now they break it to wage war." She opened a channel to the combined defense fleet. "All ships, maintain formation. Remember your training. We're not here to match their strength. We're here to show them a different kind of power." The integrated defense force spread out in a complex pattern developed by Centaurian strategic computers. Human ships flew alongside crystalline Arcturian vessels and the gravity-manipulating spheres of the Rigelians. Each species had its role, its unique contribution to a strategy that went beyond simple combat. The Deathworlder Fleet struck first, their ships accelerating to impossible speeds. Energy weapons unlike anything in known space lashed out, seeking to overwhelm through sheer destructive force. But the defense force was ready. Rigelian gravity manipulators created corridors of warped space, turning the enemy's momentum against them. Arcturian vessels projected crystalline shields that refracted the Deathworlder's energy weapons, dispersing their power harmlessly into space. And human ships, guided by the combined tactical insights of a dozen species, struck at precisely calculated weak points. "They're adapting," Rodriguez warned as the first wave of attacks was repelled. "Their hulls are reconfiguring, becoming resistant to our weapons." Chen nodded grimly. Just as the Centaurians predicted. They can optimize themselves against known threats, but they can't imagine new solutions. Execute Phase 2. Across the battlefield, the defense forces' formation shifted. Ships that had been fighting separately merged their shield harmonics, creating overlapping fields of protection that were more than the sum of their parts. Rigelian gravity technology combined with human quantum missiles to create weapons that ignored conventional defenses. Arcturian crystal matrices channeled and amplified the natural abilities of every species involved. The Deathworlders responded with overwhelming force, their ships pushing their reality-breaking technology to its limits. Space itself seemed to shudder as they unleashed weapons that should have torn the defense fleet apart. But where they brought power, the defenders brought innovation. Where they sought to dominate, the allied species worked together in ways their enemy couldn't comprehend. "Their flagship is moving into position," Patel announced. "Energy readings suggest they're preparing something massive." Chen studied the tactical display, noting how the enemy fleet was arranging itself around their flagship. "They're going to try to end this in one strike. They don't understand why we won't just submit to superior force." She opened a channel to all allied ships. "This is it. Everything we've planned for. Execute final phase." The trap was sprung. As the Deathworlder flagship began powering its main weapon, the defense fleet's formation suddenly collapsed. Ships scattered in apparent disorder, creating what seemed to be a critical vulnerability. The enemy, unable to resist such an obvious weakness, took the bait. "They're committing their reserves," Rodriguez reported, "diving straight for our apparent weak point." "Now," Chen ordered. In an instant, the scattered allied ships snapped into a new configuration. Rigelian gravity wells activated simultaneously, creating a complex web of spatial distortions. Arcturian vessels projected their crystalline shields inward instead of outward, and human ships, their weapons modified by the combined scientific knowledge of three species, opened fire. The Deathworlder fleet found itself caught in a trap that worked on principles they'd never imagined. Their adaptive technology, programmed to respond to direct threats, couldn't cope with the synergistic effects of multiple alien technologies working in concert. Ships that could shrug off conventional attacks found themselves torn apart by gravitational forces that bypassed their defenses entirely. "Their formation is breaking up," Patel announced, excitement creeping into her voice. "Their adaptive systems are trying to counter too many different threats at once." Chen watched as the mighty Deathworlder fleet began to fracture. Their perfect coordination faltered as they encountered something their evolution hadn't prepared them for, an enemy that refused to play by their rules of survival and domination. "Their flagship," Rodriguez pointed to the tactical display. "It's powering down," Chen finished. "They're standing down." She opened a broad spectrum channel. "To the Deathworlder fleet. You came here expecting to find weakness. Instead, you found something your evolution didn't prepare you for. We didn't survive by becoming the perfect predators. We survived by learning to be something more." For long moments, silence filled the void. Then, finally, a response came. The voice was human, yet not human. distorted by centuries of evolution under unimaginable conditions. How? The question carried centuries of confusion and rage. Our path was the only way. Strength through survival. Power through adaptation. No, Chen replied softly. That was just the path you were forced to take. We found another way. And if you're willing to learn, we can show you that strength doesn't have to mean standing alone. The battle for Earth was over. But as Chen looked at the remnants of the Deathworlder Fleet, she knew that a different kind of challenge was just beginning. Teaching humanity's lost children that there was more than one way to be strong would be a harder task than defeating them in combat. But as she looked around her bridge, at humans working seamlessly alongside alien allies, she knew it was possible. After all, they'd already proven that the greatest power comes not from evolving to fight alone, but from learning to grow together. A new dawn. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, Commander Sarah Chen stood in a chamber that represented everything humanity had achieved through cooperation. The New Horizons station hung in Earth orbit, its crystalline walls incorporating Arcturian architecture, its gravity systems designed by Rigelian engineers, and its heart built by human hands. Through the station's transparent walls, she could see ships from dozens of worlds moving in careful formation. Some bore the scars of the recent battle, proud badges of a conflict survived together. But what caught her attention were the darker vessels among them. Deathworlder ships, their predatory lines softened somewhat by recent modifications, learning to fly in concert with those they had once sought to destroy. It's still strange, Rodriguez said, stepping up beside her, seeing them work with others instead of trying to dominate them. Chen nodded, watching as a Deathworlder vessel carefully maneuvered in formation with an Arcturian crystal ship. They're learning. Slowly, but they're learning. The door behind them hissed open, admitting their expected guest. Ambassador Ven of the Deathworlder Fleet still moved with the fluid grace of a predator, his enhanced physiology evident in every step. But the raw aggression that had marked their first encounters had been replaced by something else. Curiosity, perhaps even hope. Commander Chen. Ven's voice carried the harmonic undertones typical of his evolution, but he'd learned to modulate it for easier communication. Your message said you had something to show me. Follow me. Chen led them to the station's research wing, where teams of scientists from various species worked together. We've been analyzing the data from your ships, comparing it to our own development path. She activated a holographic display, showing 2 versions of Earth, one dead and scarred, the other healing and alive. Your people survived through strength and adaptation. We survived through cooperation and innovation. But there's something we've discovered. The 2 paths aren't mutually exclusive. Ven studied the display, his enhanced eyes taking in details others might miss. Explain. Your evolution gave you incredible abilities. Enhanced regeneration, adaptive biology, the power to manipulate quantum fields through sheer force of will. Our path gave us different gifts, the ability to see through others' eyes, to combine different ways of thinking, to find solutions that no single species could discover alone. She gestured to a nearby laboratory, where human scientists worked alongside Deathworlder biologicals. We're not trying to undo what you became. We're showing you how to add to it. Your strength, combined with our capacity for cooperation. That's not weakness. It's evolution taken to the next level. Some among my people still resist, Ven admitted. They see cooperation as submission, diversity as dilution. Of course they do, Chen responded. You evolved in a world where any weakness meant death. But look at what we've achieved in just 3 months. She brought up new data, showing how integrated teams had already improved Deathworlder technology, making it more efficient by incorporating other species' insights, healing techniques that combined their regenerative abilities with Arcturian crystal therapy, ships that merged their reality warping drives with Rigelian gravity control. This is just the beginning, Chen continued. Every species in the galaxy evolved under different conditions, developed different solutions to survival. Imagine what we could achieve by combining all of that knowledge, all of those perspectives. Ven was silent for a long moment, watching the various species working together below. When we found your Earth, learned of your choices, we saw it as proof that we had taken the only true path to strength. Your survival seemed impossible, an offense against the natural order. And now I wonder if we stopped evolving too soon. If in our drive to become the perfect predators, we forgot that there are other forms of adaptation. A alert chimed softly. In the docking bay below, a new ship was arriving. One of the first vessels built through true cooperation between humans, Deathworlders, and their alien allies. Its lines combined the predatory efficiency of Deathworlder design with the organic flow of Arcturian architecture and the practical innovation of human engineering. The Synthesis Project, Ven noted, recognizing the ship. A bold name. Because that's what we're doing, Chen replied. Not erasing what makes each of us unique, but synthesizing something greater than any of us could be alone. She turned to face him directly. Your people spent centuries evolving to survive alone. We're offering you the chance to evolve again, not through conflict this time, but through connection. Ven's enhanced features shifted in what Chen had learned to recognize as thoughtful consideration. It goes against everything we believed, everything we became. Evolution always does, Chen smiled. That's what makes it evolution. Below them, the new ship's crew emerged, humans, Deathworlders, and aliens, moving together with practiced ease. Each brought their own strengths, their own ways of seeing the universe. And in their cooperation, Chen saw the future taking shape. We've got a lot of work ahead, she said, turning back to the viewport. The Earth hung below them, no longer just humanity's cradle, but a symbol of what could be achieved when different paths converge. There are more lost colonies out there, more branches of humanity that took different paths. Some might be even more extreme than your people. And you'll try to reach them all, Ven observed. To show them this alternative. We will, because that's what we do. We don't just adapt to survive. We adapt to thrive. And we do it better together. As if to emphasize her point, a group of young Deathworlders passed by, engaged in animated discussion with Centaurian scientists about potential improvements to quantum field manipulation. They moved with their species' characteristic predatory grace, but their eyes held something new. The light of discovery, of possibilities beyond mere survival. A new kind of evolution, Ven mused, watching them. A better one, Chen agreed. Because this time, we all evolved together. The stars stretched out before them, countless points of light in the infinite dark. Somewhere out there, humanity's other lost children waited to be found. But this time, Earth wouldn't face them as enemies to be fought or mistakes to be corrected. They would face them as family to be welcomed home, showing them that the greatest strength comes not from standing alone, but from learning to stand together.